The great hall of the Accord was silent. 12 species sat in their floating chairs, arranged in a perfect circle. Light from the Helix Nebula poured through the glass ceiling, painting everything in shades of purple and gold. Ambassador Yoon Hana stood in the center. A small human woman surrounded by giants. She held a single sheet of paper. Real paper. The aliens found this amusing. They had abandoned such primitive things thousands of years ago. I speak today on behalf of Earth and all human colonies, Hana said. Her voice was calm. We are leaving the Galactic Union, effective immediately. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Braxis, the Velith representative, began to laugh. He was tall, almost 3 meters, with a body like an insect wrapped in ceremonial robes. His laughter sounded like metal scraping against stone. The humans wish to leave? Braxis said. How wonderful. Let them go back to their dirty little planet. Other delegates joined the laughter. The Aldrani merchant, Torim, smiled with all 4 of his mouths. The Krishi delegate clicked its approval. Only Pelos, the old Zenthi scholar, remained quiet. He watched Hana with his 6 eyes, and something like worry passed across his face. Hana did not react to the laughter. She had expected it. For 200 years, humans had heard such laughter. They had learned to ignore it. We thank the Union for the opportunity to serve, Hana continued. We wish you peace and prosperity. She bowed once, turned, and walked out of the great hall. No one tried to stop her. No one asked why. No one cared. In orbit above the Accord, Admiral Park Tae-ho watched the proceedings through a video feed. He was 58 years old, with gray hair and tired eyes. He had spent his entire life in service to the Union, and the Union had never once said thank you. It is done. Hana's voice came through his communicator. They laughed, Tae-ho. They actually laughed. I know, Tae-ho replied. I saw. Do they have any idea what is coming? Tae-ho looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, 4 million humans were packing their bags, shutting down their workshops, saying goodbye to colleagues who had never treated them as equals. No, he said. They have no idea. The evacuation began within the hour. It was quiet and orderly, just like everything humans did. On 3,000 stations across the galaxy, human workers put down their tools, collected their personal belongings, and walked to the transport ships. Director Kwon Min-ho supervised the departure from Station 7, a massive trading hub near the galactic core. He was a quiet man who had spent 30 years fixing things that other species had broken. His hands were rough from work. His back ached from bending over machinery that was never designed for human bodies. Leave the manuals, he told his team. Leave everything exactly as we found it. A young engineer named Bae Sun-ho looked confused. Sir, they have never read the manuals. They do not even know they exist. That is not our problem anymore, Min-ho said. We gave them every chance. We explained everything. They chose not to listen. Sun-ho nodded slowly. He was only 25, too young to remember the early days. But he had heard the stories. He knew how humans had arrived in the galaxy full of hope, eager to make friends, ready to share their knowledge. He knew how that hope had been crushed, year after year, insult after insult. Will they be okay without us? Sun-ho asked. Min-ho did not answer. He simply picked up his bag and walked toward the transport ship. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out. Human doctors left hospitals. Human engineers left power plants. Human diplomats left negotiation rooms. Human soldiers left defense posts. They left behind instruction manuals written in 12 languages. They left behind maintenance schedules color-coded for easy understanding. They left behind emergency contact procedures that no one had ever bothered to memorize. The aliens watched them go with relief. Finally, they thought, no more humans. No more of their strange customs, their weird food, their annoying questions. No more of their constant need to fix things, improve things, help with things. The galaxy would be better without them. On Earth, the returning ships were greeted with flowers and songs. Children waved flags at the landing sites. Families reunited after years of separation. There were tears, but they were tears of joy. President Moon Jae-young addressed the nation from Seoul. She was 60 years old, with silver hair and a gentle smile. She had fought her entire political career for this moment. "Our people are coming home," she said. "For 200 years, we gave the galaxy our best. Our brightest minds, our hardest workers, our kindest hearts. And what did we receive in return? Contempt, mockery, discrimination." She paused, looking into the camera. "No more. From this day forward, Earth stands alone. We will build our own future, on our own terms. We will not beg for acceptance from those who see us as inferior. We will not apologize for existing." The crowd cheered. Across the planet, people celebrated. They did not hate the aliens. They were simply tired. Tired of being treated as servants. Tired of being the galaxy's janitors. Tired of giving everything and receiving nothing. Admiral Tejo stood on a hill overlooking the Pacific Ocean. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. It was the first sunset he had watched from Earth in 20 years. Hana joined him, still wearing her ambassador's uniform. She would not need it anymore. "Do you think we made the right choice?" she asked. Tejo thought about all the stations that would go dark, all the ships that would drift, all the people who would suffer. He thought about the warnings humans had given, the help they had offered, the kindness they had shown. None of it had mattered. "We tried," he said. "For 200 years, we tried. We cannot force them to respect us. We can only choose to respect ourselves." Hana nodded. She took off her badge and threw it into the ocean. "Goodbye, Galactic Union," she whispered. The badge sank beneath the waves and disappeared. 1 week later, Earth vanished from all galactic maps. Human coordinates were erased. Communication channels were closed. The blue planet that had once reached out to the stars in friendship now turned its back on them. And the galaxy celebrated. They would not celebrate for long. 3 weeks after the humans left. The lights on. The Accord began to flicker. Kessa noticed it first. She was the Velith administrator in charge of station operations, a tall insectoid with golden eyes and clicking mandibles. She had celebrated loudly when the humans departed. "Good riddance," she had said. "We never needed them." Now she stood in the main control room, watching warning lights flash across every screen. "What is happening?" she demanded. Her chief engineer, a young Velith named Draxus, stared at the controls with obvious fear. "The main reactor is destabilizing. Administrator. The power fluctuations are getting worse. Then fix it." Draxus made a sound like breaking glass. It was the Velith equivalent of a nervous laugh. "I do not know how. The stabilization system was designed by humans. We never learned how it works." Kessa felt something cold crawl through her body. "What do you mean you never learned? You have been working here for 50 years. The humans always handled it," Draxus said. "Whenever something went wrong, they fixed it. We never needed to understand." Kessa pushed him aside and looked at the control panel. It was covered in symbols and numbers that meant nothing to her. There was a manual nearby, a thick book with a human face on the cover and words in 12 languages. She opened it and found detailed instructions, diagrams, and explanations. She could not understand any of it. "Get me someone who can read this," she ordered. They searched the entire station. They found no one. The humans who had written the manual were gone. The humans who had maintained the reactor were gone. The humans who had trained alien engineers had given up after centuries of being ignored. For 3 days, the reactor continued to destabilize. Kessa sent emergency messages to every Velith colony, asking for help. The responses were all the same. "We do not know how to fix human technology. We never learned." On the 4th day, the backup systems activated automatically. The humans had designed them to protect the station, even if no one maintained the main reactor. The lights stopped flickering. The crisis passed, but Kessa did not sleep that night. She lay in her quarters, staring at the ceiling, thinking about all the systems she did not understand. The life support, the water recycling, the gravity generators, the communication arrays. Humans had built or improved all of them. Meanwhile, on the other side of the galaxy, Torum was having problems of his own. The Eldrani merchant prince commanded a fleet of 500 trading ships. He was rich, powerful, and proud. He had made his fortune selling goods between star systems, using hyperspace routes that cut travel time from years to days. Now half his fleet was stranded in empty space. "What do you mean the beacon failed?" Torum shouted at his captain. The captain, a scarred Aldrani warrior named Veth, lowered all four of his eyes in shame. "The hyperspace beacon at Junction 7 has stopped working. Our ships emerged in the wrong location. 3 vessels crashed into an asteroid field. 200 crew members are dead." Torum grabbed the captain by his collar. "Who maintained that beacon?" "Humans, my lord. Humans maintained all the beacons in this sector." Torum released him and sank into his chair. He thought about the hyperspace network. Thousands of beacons spread across the galaxy, creating the routes that made interstellar trade possible. He had used these routes his entire life. He had never once wondered who kept them running. "How many beacons did humans maintain?" he asked quietly. Veth checked his data pad. His face went pale. 67%, my lord, across the entire galaxy. "And who is maintaining them now?" Silence. Over the next 2 weeks, more beacons failed. Ships disappeared. Trade routes collapsed. The galactic economy, built on fast and reliable transportation, began to crumble. But transportation was not the only problem. On Station 12, a communication hub in the Outer Rim, the translation matrix crashed. This was the system that allowed all 12 species to understand each other. Without it, negotiations became impossible. Misunderstandings multiplied. A simple trade dispute between the Krishi and the Zenthi turned into a shooting war because neither side could understand the other's words. High Curator Pelos watched the chaos from his library on the Accord. He was old, even by Zenthi standards, with 6 eyes that had seen 1,000 years of history. Unlike his colleagues, he had always respected humans. He had studied their culture, their language, their strange but beautiful customs. Now he understood why they had left. He dug through historical records, searching for the truth. What he found terrified him. Humans had handled 73% of all infrastructure maintenance in the Union. They had coordinated 81% of emergency responses. They had mediated 89% of interspecies conflicts. They had performed 94% of deep space rescue operations. They had done all of this quietly, without complaint, without recognition. They had been the invisible workers who kept the galaxy running, and the galaxy had treated them like dirt. Pelos presented his findings to the Union Council. The remaining delegates listened with growing discomfort. "This is exaggerated," Braxis said. "Humans were helpers, nothing more. We can replace them easily." "Can we?" Pelos asked. "Our reactors are failing. Our beacons are dying. Our communication systems are breaking down. 3 weeks without humans, and we are already falling apart." Braxis stood, towering over the old scholar. "You give them too much credit. They were servants. Useful, perhaps, but replaceable. Others will learn to do what they did." "Will they learn in time?" Before Braxis could answer, an alarm sounded throughout the station. A message appeared on every screen. A plague ship from the Outer Rim was sending distress signals. 400,000 Aldrani colonists were sick and dying. They needed medical assistance immediately. The council looked at each other. In the past, human medical response teams would have launched within the hour. They had ships designed for such emergencies. Doctors trained in treating all species. Supplies ready for any situation. Now there were no human ships. No human doctors. No human supplies. "Who will respond?" Pelos asked. No one answered. The plague ship drifted for 9 days. Help never came. When Aldrani rescue vessels finally arrived, they found only corpses. 400,000 men, women, and children, dead because no one knew how to save them. Torim received the news on his flagship. Among the dead were 3 of his cousins and their families. He locked himself in his quarters and did not come out for 2 days. When he emerged, he went directly to the communication center. "Find me a human frequency," he ordered. "Any frequency. I do not care how long it takes." His operators searched for hours. They found nothing. Earth had gone completely silent. Every human communication channel was dead. Every human contact number was disconnected. The humans had not just left. They had disappeared, and the galaxy was only beginning to understand what it had lost. 2 months after the humans left, the galaxy was burning. Captain Seo Jiwoo sat in a dark room deep beneath the surface of Earth's moon. She was 34 years old, with sharp eyes and steady hands. Her job was simple. Watch, listen, record. The walls around her were covered in screens, each showing a different part of the galaxy. Burning stations, drifting ships, dead worlds. She had watched the collapse happen in real time, documenting every failure, every disaster, every death. Report, said Commander Han Do-hyun through the communicator. He was her superior, the leader of Earth's defensive perimeter. A patient man who had waited his entire career for this moment. Jiwoo checked her notes. The Velith-Aldrani border conflict has escalated to full war. Both sides have lost approximately 200 ships. Civilian casualties are estimated at 3 million. The conflict we froze 180 years ago. Yes, sir. Human diplomats maintained the ceasefire through continuous negotiation. Without them, the old hatred returned within weeks. Do-hyun sighed. What else? The Kreeth swarm has broken containment. They have already consumed 2 colony worlds. The Zenthi home system is next. The barriers collapsed. Humans maintained them secretly for decades. The aliens did not even know they existed. Until the swarm started spreading. On the screens, Jiwoo could see images of the Kreeth. They were not truly intelligent, more like locusts than people. They ate everything in their path, reproducing rapidly, spreading across the stars like a living plague. Humans had held them back for 50 years through a network of energy barriers and controlled extermination. Now there was no one to hold them back. There is more, Jiwoo said. High Curator Pelos discovered classified files in the Union archives. Files we left behind. What did he find? Everything. The Shadow War, the machine intelligence, the 17 external threats we neutralized without anyone knowing. Do-hyun was quiet for a long moment. Then he laughed softly. So now they know. Now they finally understand what we were doing. Yes, sir. But understanding and surviving are 2 different things. The classified files had shocked the Union Council. For 100 years, human stealth ships had been fighting a war on the edges of the galaxy. A machine intelligence from beyond the galactic rim, ancient and hostile, had been pushing toward Union space. Humans had stopped it again and again, losing thousands of lives in battles no one ever knew about. There were other threats too. Rogue species that wanted to conquer. Natural disasters that needed containment. Cosmic phenomena that required constant monitoring. Humans had dealt with all of them, silently, without recognition, because no one else would. Pelos shared the files with the council. Braxis read them with trembling hands. This cannot be true, the Velith leader said. Humans fighting a machine army? Impossible. The evidence is clear. Pelos replied. They protected us from threats we did not even know existed. And we called them servants. We called them janitors. We laughed when they left. What do we do now? Pelos looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere beyond those stars, the machine intelligence was advancing. Without human ships to stop it, it would reach Union space in less than 2 years. We survive, Pelos said. If we can. But survival was becoming harder every day. On Station 15, the life support system failed. 12,000 aliens suffocated before emergency generators activated. On Station 23, a gravity malfunction crushed 3 decks into a metal pancake. On Station 47, a water recycling error poisoned an entire population with toxic waste. All of these systems had been designed or improved by humans. All of them had operated perfectly for decades because humans maintained them. All of them failed within weeks of human departure. The death toll climbed into the millions, then the tens of millions, then higher, and still, Earth remained silent. Admiral Park Tae-ho stood on the observation deck of Luna Base 1, watching the chaos unfold on distant screens. Beside him, Ambassador Yoon Hana held a cup of tea that had gone cold hours ago. They are dying out there, Hana said quietly. I know. Children, families, people who never treated us badly. I know. Do we just watch? Tae-ho turned to face her. His eyes were heavy with grief and exhaustion. What would you have us do, Hana? Return? Beg them to let us help? They would laugh again. They would take our help and then spit on us when the crisis passed. Maybe. Not maybe. Certainly. We tried for 200 years. We showed them kindness. We showed them patience. We showed them everything good about humanity. It meant nothing to them. Hannah set down her tea. So, we let them burn. We let them learn. There is a difference. Outside, Earth hung in the black sky, blue and green and beautiful. On that planet, life continued as normal. Children went to school. Farmers tended their fields. Scientists pursued their research. Artists created their works. The galaxy was collapsing. But Earth was at peace. In a small village in the mountains of Korea, director Kwon Min-ho sat in his garden, watching the sunrise. After 30 years of fixing broken machines in alien stations, he had returned home to grow vegetables and drink tea. His grandson, a boy of 7 named Min-ho Jr., ran up to him with a toy spaceship. "Grandfather, did you really fly in space?" "Yes, little one, many times." "Was it beautiful?" Min-ho thought about the stars, the nebulas, the endless wonders of the galaxy. He thought about the aliens who had called him dirty, stupid, worthless. He thought about the friends he had lost in accidents that could have been prevented if anyone had listened to his warnings. "It was beautiful," he said. "But this is more beautiful." He pointed at the sunrise, at the mountains, at the flowers in his garden. "This is home. This is where we belong." The boy did not understand. He was too young. Someday, when he was older, he would learn the full story. He would learn about humanity's time among the stars, about the kindness they showed, and the cruelty they received. He would learn why his grandfather preferred a simple garden to all the wonders of the galaxy. For now, he simply sat beside the old man and watched the sunrise. Across the galaxy, the Kreeth swarm continued to spread. The machine intelligence continued to advance. The wars continued to rage. The stations continued to fail. And on Earth, the humans waited. They would not wait forever. 4 months after the humans left, the Union Council made a decision that would have been unthinkable 1 year ago. They voted to find Earth and beg for help. The vote was unanimous. Even Braxis, who had laughed loudest when the humans departed, raised his hand in favor. His pride had died, along with 30 million of his people. The Kreeth swarm had reached Velith space. Without human containment barriers, there was nothing to stop it. "We will send our fastest ships," Braxis announced. "We will find the human homeworld. We will offer whatever they want. Credits, territory, political power, anything." Pelos, the old Zenthi scholar, shook his head slowly. "You still do not understand, do you?" "What is there to understand? Everyone has a price. We find their price, we pay it, they return. Humans do not work that way. They never did. That is why they left." Braxis slammed his fist on the table. "Then what do they want?" "Respect," Pelos said simply. "Dignity. To be treated as equals. Things we never gave them. Things we cannot buy." The fleet launched anyway. 50 ships, the best the Union had left, commanded by Administrator Kessa herself. She had volunteered for the mission. She had not slept properly since the day the reactor almost failed. Every night, she dreamed of darkness, of silence, of a galaxy without light. The journey to Sol System took 3 weeks. Kessa spent the time studying human history, reading their literature, learning their customs. She wanted to understand them. She needed to understand them. What she discovered surprised her. Humans were not weak. They had never been weak. Their history was filled with wars, disasters, and challenges that would have destroyed any other species. They had survived ice ages, plagues, famines, and weapons that could crack planets. They had rebuilt their civilization from ruins dozens of times, and yet they had chosen to serve. When humans first joined the Galactic Union, they had been full of hope. They wanted to learn from other species. They wanted to share their knowledge. They wanted to build a future where all species worked together in peace. Instead, they were assigned the lowest jobs: maintenance, cleaning, repair work, the tasks that other species considered beneath them. Humans complained at first, but then they accepted their role. They did their work quietly and well, hoping that eventually, someone would notice their value. No one did. Kessa read the reports of human engineers who had prevented disasters. They were never thanked. She read the stories of human doctors who had saved millions of lives. They were never recognized. She read the accounts of human diplomats who had stopped wars before they started. They were never promoted. For 200 years, humans had given the galaxy everything. And the galaxy had given them nothing in return. When Kessa's fleet reached Sol system, they found empty space. "This is impossible," her navigator said. "Earth should be right here. The third planet from the sun. Scan again." "I have scanned 50 times. There is nothing. No planet, no moon, no stations, nothing." Kessa stared at the empty space where Earth should have been. She knew the planet had not been destroyed. The humans had simply hidden it. They had technology capable of cloaking an entire world, making it invisible to every sensor in the galaxy. The Union's best scientists had never imagined such technology was possible. "Broadcast a message," Kessa ordered. "On all frequencies. Tell them we are here. Tell them we want to talk." The message was sent. They waited. Hours passed. Then days. No response came. "They are ignoring us," her communications officer said. "Keep trying." For 2 weeks, Kessa's fleet orbited the empty space where Earth had been. They sent thousands of messages. They begged. They pleaded. They apologized. Silence. Back on the Accord, Torum was conducting his own investigation. He had hired researchers to examine every record of human activity in the Union. What they found made him sick with shame. For 2 centuries, humans sold their services at 10% of market value. The lead researcher reported, "Their engineers were worth 10 times what we paid them. Their doctors were worth 100 times. Their diplomats were priceless." "Why?" Torum asked. "Why would they accept such low payment?" "Because they wanted to belong. They thought if they proved their usefulness, if they showed their value, we would eventually accept them as equals. They were willing to sacrifice everything for a chance at friendship." Torum thought about all the times he had cheated human traders, all the contracts he had broken, all the insults he had thrown at human merchants who dared to ask for fair prices. "We are fools," he said. "Yes, my lord. We are." Meanwhile, Pelos discovered one final secret. It was hidden in the deepest archives, in files that had been classified for a century. Ambassador Yun Hana's final message to Earth's leadership. He read it aloud to the council. "We gave them everything. Our knowledge, our labor, our lives. We asked for nothing in return except respect. They gave us contempt. We leave not in anger, but in sorrow. We hoped they would see us as partners. They saw us as servants. We hoped they would treat us as friends. They treated us as tools. There is no hate in our hearts. Only disappointment. Only grief. Perhaps our absence will teach them what our presence could not. Perhaps when we are gone, they will finally understand what they lost." The council chamber was silent when Pelos finished reading. Braxis stood slowly. His body seemed smaller somehow, as if the weight of his guilt had crushed something inside him. "We did this," he said. "We drove them away. And now, we are paying the price." As if to emphasize his words, alarms began blaring throughout the station. The Kreeth swarm had reached the outer defenses. 3 more colony worlds had fallen. The machine intelligence had crossed into Union territory for the first time in a century, destroying everything in its path. Without humans to stop it, extinction was only a matter of time. Kessa received the news on her flagship, still orbiting empty space. She looked at the stars, at the invisible planet hiding somewhere nearby, and she made a decision. "Prepare a shuttle," she said. "I am going alone. Administrator, that is suicide. If the humans wanted us dead, they would have killed us already. They are watching. They are listening. They want to see what we will do." She boarded the shuttle and flew into the empty space where Earth should have been. She turned off her engines, opened all her communication channels, and waited. "My name is Kessa," she said into the void. "I am alone. I am unarmed. I am here to listen. If you have anything to say, I am ready to hear it." For 3 hours, nothing happened. Then her shuttle jerked forward, pulled by an invisible force toward a destination she could not see. The cloaking field parted around her, like curtains opening on a stage, and there, shining blue and green in the light of its yellow sun, was Earth. Kessa wept. She did not know why. Perhaps it was relief. Perhaps it was hope. Perhaps it was simply the beauty of a world that had been hidden from a galaxy that did not deserve to see it. Her shuttle descended through clouds and atmosphere, guided by forces she did not control. It landed in a valley surrounded by mountains, in a country she later learned was called Korea, and there, waiting for her, was Admiral Park Tae-ho. Kessa stepped out of her shuttle onto grass. Real grass, green and soft, unlike anything she had ever felt. The air smelled like flowers and rain. Birds sang in trees that swayed gently in the wind. In the distance, mountains rose toward a sky painted in shades of orange and pink by the setting sun. She had expected military bases, weapons, defense systems. Instead, she found a garden. Admiral Park Tae-ho stood on a stone path, wearing simple clothes instead of his uniform. He was older than she had imagined, with gray hair and kind eyes that held no anger. "Welcome to Earth," he said. Kessa tried to speak, the words stuck in her throat. She had prepared 100 speeches, 1,000 arguments. Now, standing before this quiet man in his peaceful garden, all of them seemed meaningless. "I do not know what to say," she admitted. "Then say nothing. Come, sit, have tea." He led her to a small house with paper walls and wooden floors. They sat on cushions beside a low table. A woman brought tea in clay cups. The tea was warm and slightly bitter, unlike anything Kessa had tasted before. "This is beautiful," she said, looking around at the simple room. "This is home," Tae-ho replied. "This is what we protected for 200 years while we served your union." The words were not accusation, but statement of fact. Kessa felt them cut deeper than any insult could. "We did not know," she said. "We did not understand what you were doing for us. You did not want to know. Every year, we submitted reports. Every year, we requested meetings to discuss our concerns. Every year, we were ignored. You saw us as servants, and servants do not deserve attention." Kessa set down her tea. Her hands were shaking. "I am here to apologize. On behalf of the Velith. On behalf of the Union. We were wrong. We were blind. We are sorry." Tae-ho studied her face for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. "I believe you. But apologies do not rebuild what was destroyed. Apologies do not bring back the dead. Then what do you want? Name it. Credits. Territory. Political power. Control of the council. Anything." Tae-ho smiled sadly. "You still do not understand. We never wanted those things. We never wanted power over others. We only wanted to be treated as equals, as partners, as friends. I can promise that. Things will be different now, will they? When the crisis passes, when your stations are running smoothly again, when the threats are contained, will you still remember, or will you return to your old ways, calling us servants when you think we are not listening?" Kessa had no answer. She wanted to promise that things would change forever. But she knew her people. She knew how quickly they forgot lessons learned in pain. The door slid open. A young woman entered, carrying a data pad. She was small, with black hair tied back and eyes that sparkled with intelligence. She bowed to Tae-ho, then turned to study Kessa with open curiosity. "This is Cadet Choi Yerin," Tae-ho said. "She represents our next generation. The children who grew up after we left the Union." Yerin sat beside the Admiral. She showed no fear of Kessa, no hatred, no anger, only calm interest. "I have a question," Yerin said. "Why should we help you?" Kessa blinked. "Because millions are dying. Because the galaxy is falling apart. Because without you, we face extinction." "Yes. And what did you do when our people faced discrimination? When our workers were beaten by Velith employers? When our children were mocked in alien schools? When our diplomats were denied entry to council meetings? We did nothing. You did less than nothing. You participated. You laughed. You celebrated when we left." Kessa lowered her head. "Yes. We did. So why should we help you now?" The room was silent. Outside, the birds continued to sing. The wind continued to blow. The sun continued to set on this beautiful, peaceful world that the galaxy had never deserved to see. Tejo spoke. Yeren, show her the schools. The young cadet activated her datapad. Images appeared in the air between them. Human children learning to paint, to sing, to build, to grow. Schools filled with laughter, farms filled with workers, laboratories filled with scientists, a civilization thriving in isolation. We have everything we need, Yeren said. Clean air, clean water, families, communities, purpose. We spent 200 years serving a galaxy that despised us. Now we serve ourselves. We are happy. She looked at Kessa with something that might have been pity. We do not need your stars. We do not need your stations. We do not need your approval. Earth is enough. Earth has always been enough. Kessa understood then. The humans were not hiding because they were afraid. They were not silent because they were weak. They had simply found something the rest of the galaxy had lost, something more valuable than all the credits and territories and political power in the universe. They had found home. Please, Kessa whispered. The machine intelligence will reach us in 18 months. Without you, we cannot stop it. Billions will die. Not just Velith, not just Aldrani. Every species, every world, everything we have built. She fell to her knees. In her entire life, she had never knelt before anyone. The gesture felt strange and humiliating, but also right. For the first time, she was showing a human the respect they deserved. I am not asking you to serve us again. I am asking you to save us. Not because we deserve it, but because you are better than us. Because you always were. Tejo looked at Yeren. Something passed between them. Then he stood and walked to the window. We have been watching the galaxy for 4 months, he said. We have seen the suffering. We have counted the dead. Every night, I ask myself if we made the right choice. He turned to face Kessa. We left because we refused to be treated as less than equal. If we return now, simply because you asked, we prove that our principles meant nothing. We prove that we can be manipulated through guilt. Kessa's heart sank. But, Tejo continued, if we refuse to help simply because we were hurt, we become what you were. We become cruel. We become cold. We become the very thing we fought against. He crossed the room and extended his hand to Kessa. She stared at it, not understanding. Stand up, he said. We will help you, not because you deserve it, but because we refuse to become what you were. We refuse to let pain turn us into monsters. Kessa took his hand and stood. Tears streamed down her face. Thank you. Thank you. Do not thank us yet. Things will be different this time. We will not serve in silence. We will not accept contempt. Every species must learn to maintain their own systems, fight their own battles, speak their own truths. We will teach you. We will guide you. But we will not carry you forever. Kessa nodded. Agreed. Whatever you ask. And one more thing. Tejo's eyes hardened. The history books will tell the truth. Every child in the galaxy will learn what happened. They will learn what humans gave and what we received in return. They will learn so that future generations never make the same mistake. It will be done. 3 days later, the first human ships emerged from Earth's cloaking field. They spread across the galaxy like seeds carried on the wind. Engineers returned to dying stations. Doctors returned to plague-ridden worlds. Soldiers returned to the front lines. The machine intelligence was stopped 16 months later. The Kreeth swarm was contained. The wars were ended. The beacons were restored. The galaxy was rebuilt. But this time, everything was different. Humans did not work alone. Every species learned beside them. Every station had mixed crews. Every task was shared. The lessons of collapse were not forgotten, and on every station, in every council chamber, in every school throughout the galaxy, a new phrase was inscribed in all 12 languages. It was the first thing children learned and the last thing elders remembered. Those who serve with grace deserve to be served with honor. Years later, old Administrator Kessa would tell her grandchildren about the day she landed on Earth, about the garden, the tea, the quiet admiral who could have watched the galaxy burn but chose to save it instead. Humans are strange creatures, she would say. They have every reason to hate us, every right to abandon us. But they did not. They helped us anyway. Not for power, not for revenge, but because that is who they are. And her grandchildren would ask, why? And she would smile and say, because they are better than us. They always were. And maybe, if we try hard enough, we can learn to be like them. Outside her window, human and Velith children played together in the starlight. Their laughter echoed across the station, a sound that had once seemed impossible. The galaxy had learned its lesson, and the humans had finally come home.